If you're looking to refresh your florals, then I have you covered this month because I thought we could celebrate all things floral. And I have a series of mixed media floral art time-lapse videos planned for this month here on YouTube. Or if you wanted to get creative and get your hands dirty and expand your floral repertoire, then you'll find my creative exercises over on Patreon for my art explorers and also my process addicts too. In fact, I posted the first one up on Monday and I have one going live every Monday in June. And then I've also got a full video planned with lots of mixed media flower ideas later in the month for my patrons. So lots of ideas to help you get creating lots of interesting mixed media florals. I mean, it's such a great subject, isn't it? And it's so much fun to explore because I think it's a never-ending subject. You can do so much with it. And I do love botanicals, don't you? Now, the idea behind this piece today is to get as much texture as possible with only a few products. And it's really simple to do. So what I'm relying on are things like drips and dribbles and also pooling as well. That can be quite a useful tool. And quite often you're advised to avoid the pooling of colours and the pooling of liquid on your work, but in some occasions it can actually work in your favour. And of course the other thing that I'm using here are splatter textures too. But don't discount the texture in that very first layer with the addition of the white paint on the paper and then the texture of the line work of the flower itself in the black. And I picked a brush pen, as you'll see, so that I could get both thick and thin lines in there, and that is another texture as well. I'm drawing my flower with pencil first and then I'm going to ink it out with that brush pen, but if you aren't sure that you want to draw your flower, I know a lot of you don't actually like to do drawing or you don't feel as confident with your drawing, then go ahead and use a stamp. Or you could even use a digi-stamp for this as well, and I have got some floral digis over on my Etsy shop too. And actually, hopefully by the time this video goes live, a very similar flower to this one should be up on my Etsy shop. But I wasn't really sure what to call it because I usually list them by the name of the flower. I'm not very good with flower names, so I generally have to do some research to find out what kind of flower it is. This one, I think it's a camellia. What do you think? So if you recognise this flower by the end of the video, then do let me know what you think it is. The paper I'm working on is very thin, so it's going to wrinkle with the paint and with the water and with that pooling that I'm going to be doing. But I'm not really that worried about that for this. It's not a big deal. This is just a bit of play and it's just an experiment to see what kind of textures I can actually get. And what I really love about using this paper is that contrast of the white with it and also the colours that I'm using as well. Particularly the blue that I'm going to use, the blue and the brown Kraft paper kind of goes really well. That blue, white and brown combo, I don't know what it is about it, I just really like it. You've seen me use this paper before. In fact, I think I used it in that soft pastels video not so long ago. And it's just a parcel paper, but it comes in a pad form for convenience. And I'm pretty sure that you could probably buy the rolls and use it in exactly the same way, just cut it down, flatten it out, but the pad is just so more convenient to use. And it has a glossy side and a matte side, just like ordinary packing paper does, and that kind of ribbing that you get in this kind of paper. And I'm working on the matte side for this. Now you could easily use gesso instead of white acrylic paint, And the white acrylic paint is going to add its own texture, so more of a glossy texture than a gesso would add. But I find that if I add the white paint thinly enough, then it's not too much of a problem, it's not too glossy, and you get some really great textures there as well. I've talked about this before, I kind of prefer to use white paint over gesso in a lot of places. You don't see me using a lot of gesso really. I use it as a ground when it's needed as a ground, but I tend to sort of, when I'm knocking back pieces in my artwork, I will tend to use a white paint instead, or some other paint or some other colour. And gesso is designed to sort of merge into the background, and you can need a few layers of it to get an intense look, and I like that striking white look that you get with the acrylic white paint on this, so that's why I went with it. But if you prefer gesso, go with gesso. And you can see as this project is progressing that I'm not being subtle about the texture at all. I'm kind of really going for it. And I'm also not trying to make the flower look lifelike either, so I'm not worrying about light and shade or anything like that. And you might like the finished look, you might not like the finished look, but play around and find the look that works for you. It's all part of the experiment and working out what you like and what you don't like. You want to be trying lots of different techniques and lots of different looks to see which are the ones that really sing for you and really work for you, and tweak them and change them up, make them different, make them your own, and just keep on experimenting. Oh, and if you're wondering what that odd looking tool is, the one that looks a little bit like a bottle cleaner or a test tube cleaner, well, that's a Speckler Brush Tool, and you'll find it listed with the other products in the description. Now, I spotted this recently in an art shop and I was so super curious about it that I had to get it and try it out. So you might have spotted it last week as well. I have more mixed media techniques for you to try, so watch these next and I will see you there.